And good Wednesday afternoon to you, and welcome into Off of the Helmets. I'm Brady Tinker here in Dallas. I hope everyone is in the holiday spirit and is pushing forward, is still getting out. I recommended last week, listen, don't order everything from those online people who bring it to your front door. Get out there. Go get the people you love in your life something special. Doesn't have to be expensive, but when you shop for someone else that you love, I'm telling you, you feel better about yourself. I got out and went to Sam Moon, not a sponsor, and bought a bunch of girl stuff for my girlfriend that I think is pretty damn cool, and it makes me feel good about myself, and that's what I want for all of us. The Cowboys, by the way, are a playoff team. Good stuff. Mike McCarthy has authored a 12-win season and probably what will be a 12-win season again this year. Back-to-back double-digit winning seasons for the first time since 95-96. That news is good. The bad news is the upstart Jaguars author the second shocking loss to the Cowboys in 5 weeks where they coughed up big leads. It's worrisome because it involves multiple parts of this team. It involves a defense that looks tired. It involves an offensive coordinator who is brilliant in one moment and seems to be tone deaf in another. It involves a quarterback who's playing at a very high level and scoring lots of points since he's come back and looks healthy, but turns the ball over too much. It involves lots of parts of this Dallas Cowboys team. And now here come the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's not a must win, but it's a must win. 3 games left in this season. Time to get this ship headed to where it's heading downhill, as they say in a good running game. Let's get started with all that right here on Off of the Helmets. So here we go with Off of the Helmets. The Jaguars win 40-34 in a shocking overtime loss for the Dallas Cowboys in a play at the end of the game that we can break down all we want. Is Noah Brown supposed to catch a ball as he slides in a comfortable position that is thrown right in the breadbasket? Yes. Should he have gotten his hands turned this way and received the ball rather than letting it hit him in the chest? Yes. Should Dak Prescott have forcibly moved himself up in the pocket to where he's generally throwing a pass over the top of the defensive end and his left tackle to where the wide receiver didn't see the ball when it came out? No. Could the quarterback have avoided a very difficult, dangerous throw and run 7 yards that way because nobody was to his left? Yes. So we can break this entire game down just like that over and over again. And I kind of want to a little bit. Something I haven't 12 episodes because we're talking about bigger picture and generalities. But now this is a playoff team that expects to go places, that most likely is going to line up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week number 1 in Tampa in the playoffs. And you want it to turn out better than it did last year against San Francisco. And so do I, and so do all the Dallas Cowboys. So it started like this against the Jacksonville Jaguars after an almost embarrassing loss against Houston. Or did they lose to Houston? I lost track. No, an almost embarrassing loss to Houston. A turnover for the Cowboys and a touchdown. A drive finished by a shovel pass, and I'm like, there we go. Creativity. Not the shovel pass hasn't been all the way back to John Elway. It has, but I about fell out of my chair because that's creative for the Cowboys team. And then it's 14-0, just like that for the Cowboys. And they're orchestrating drives. The defense is doing what it's supposed to do. We know this is not a bad Jacksonville team. And here we are, up 14-0. Just what all of us wanted. It was 21-7 at halftime. But right before halftime, the Cowboys were sort of at their own 35 or 40-yard line. There was roughly 53 seconds left to go, and they were sort of doing that thing you do at the end of the half when you're up by 18 points, and that is, well, let's see if we got a couple of careful plays that open something up, then we'll use our timeouts. But the Cowboys got to 55 seconds left before halftime. And it was 3rd and 1. And this is a good running team. The Cowboys will certainly convert 3rd and 1. And the Jaguars use a timeout. And I thought, that's interesting. You're already down 21-7. You seem to be in trouble. It's 3rd and 1, which most likely the Cowboys will convert. And you just called timeout to save the Cowboys time. What if this pops for 7, 8, 10 yards and the Cowboys are somewhere around midfield with 2 timeouts left? More points for the Cowboys before halftime? The last thing the Jaguars wanted. But damned if they didn't use a timeout. Timeout. And they bring everyone in the line of scrimmage and they stuff Zeke for a 1-yard loss. They call another timeout. And they've got 50 seconds left when they get the ball back after a punt to try and do something. They had 2 or 3 successful plays. It didn't turn into points. But at that point, after the timeout and after 2 or 3 successful plays, I heard that bong Rocky bell in my ear of The Jaguars aren't done. That was extraordinarily aggressive. They wanted more plays. They wanted to take a chance at scoring before halftime. And they weren't afraid of calling a timeout and the Cowboys potentially scoring more points. The Jaguars were here. And the head coach knew he had adjustments that he was going to make that would hopefully slow the Cowboys down a little bit at halftime, and damned if it didn't. So that stuck out to me. Doug Peterson is a winning coach. He's got a young quarterback who's playing better and better and better. So halftime numbers, I noticed this. Lawrence, the Jaguars quarterback, was 8 for 15 for 85 yards. Okay, I noticed that. Okay. Seemed like he'd been somewhat effective, but missed a couple of throws. When he stays in the pocket, the Cowboys were able to get pressure, and the Cowboys just firmly had control of this game, except for that rocky bell that went off in my head with 50 seconds left to go in the half. So the Jaguars get the ball and a field goal, 21-10, coming out of halftime. Cowboys get the ball back, and a big play by CD on third down puts them in field goal range, so 24-10. Good answer by the Cowboys. Jaguars then throw an interception to the Cowboys, but the Cowboys can only turn it into another field goal, but it's 27-10. So our 18-point lead is 17, and there's 5 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in the third. And my heart's fine, right? The Cowboys have had 2 scoring drives, field goals, but scoring drives. And here's where the kiss of death may have happened. Greg Olsen was a very good tight end in this league, and he and his partner, and I can't remember his name, began to have a conversation on camera about the Cowboys with roughly 5 minutes left in the game. And they said, you know what? This is where the Cowboys needed to have a good football game, coming off an iffy effort against the Houston Texans. This is the last 4 games of the year. You want to have and be generating momentum. So the offense has been very good. The defense has been its usual self. This team is a good team. The Cowboys, quote, look good, said the announcers. 2 minutes later, Kelvin Joseph bit on a stop-and-go move. Javon Kearse was supposed to be helping and giving him depth with safety behind the play. Joseph bit, got beat by 15 yards. Javon Kearse was standing flat-footed somewhere out of the play and absolutely got nowhere near it. And 59 yards and a touchdown for Zay Jones. And now, all of a sudden, 27-10 is 27-17. And the Rocky Bell, bong, is still making noise in my head. The Cowboys, Dak gets sacked on the next possession. And on second or third and long, rolls out of the pocket, probably a bit prematurely, to be honest with you, as he did plenty of times during this game, and throws an interception that I still can't quite tell whether the ball got tipped a little bit or not. Dalton Schultz is open 8 or 10 yards down the field for what will be a first down, and he airmails Schultz, and it's an interception for the Jaguars at 1:23 left in the third. Cue the Rocky Bell again. The disposition of this game has changed. The Jaguars keep coming, even though they had a couple of interceptions and a turnover themselves. And Travis Etienne begins to run the ball, and he's gashing the Cowboys. Lawrence is beginning to ball out. He's getting a rhythm, and he's actually getting better as he gets pushed a little bit in and out of the pocket rather than standing in the pocket. It becomes apparent to me, and maybe it becomes apparent to them as well. And he's escaping every single time the Cowboys have any pressure on it. They cannot get him down. By the way, during this period, the Jaguars lose both their right tackle and their left tackle, both out for the game. Again, should be the end of the football game. But instead, they drive the ball down the field. As Henry Stram would say, they matriculate the ball down the field, and the Jaguars score again. Zay Jones' second touchdown, and the Jaguars now have, the Jaguars have now come back 27-24. The disposition has changed. The Jaguars have lost their left tackle and their right tackle, but the Jaguars get the ball back again, and Zay Jones in the red zone scores a touchdown, and the Jaguars have the lead. At 10:03 of the fourth, this entire thing has flipped, and all of us have this thing in our stomach going, are you kidding? We've seen this in Green Bay. We thought we were going to bounce back and play a great complete game because of what happened in Houston. And now we've blown what was an 18-point lead and a 17-point lead. And the upstart Jaguars are feeling themselves. Their young quarterback's feeling themselves. Their Super Bowl winning coach, Travis Etienne. The defense has come out in the second half and said to the Cowboys, we're going to do our best to stop your running game, and we're going to double team CD Lamb. Everybody else you want to throw it to, we'll just try and cover man up. That's our game plan. And it worked. The running game got slowed down. They also ran the ball less. CD Lamb got slowed down, and all of a sudden the Jaguars are ahead. But the Cowboys do what you would want them to do if you're who they think they are. A great 7-minute drive, all the way down the field. I think Dak hits 7 of 9 passes. They take 7 minutes off the clock, and the Cowboys have the lead 34-31, and damn, that's impressive because you took a couple of gut punches, them Rocky bells were sounding, and you came back and scored the touchdown on the drive like you want your quarterback and your championship winning team to do. 34-31 Cowboys with 3 minutes left to go. The defense can stop them. This thing's good. And the defense did stop them. As a matter of fact, Lawrence gets out of the pocket and the ball gets hit and he fumbles and the Cowboys got it. 1:30 left, holding on to the ball and a 34-31 lead. Finally, sit back, drink that drink, have another one, order another one, whatever it is. The Cowboys are going to win this game. So what do? Jaguars have all their timeouts. Most of the time you would go run, make them use all 3 timeouts. They're going to get the ball back with a minute left to go after you punt, and they're going to have to go 50 or 60 yards with no timeouts. They're going to have to really execute properly. And by the way, you have one of the best rushing defenses and the best defensive ends, and you got Micah Parsons. Someone's going to make a play, and that's not going to work. So on first down, the Cowboys run. Perfect. Timeout Jacksonville. Loss of 3. 2nd and 13. 3-yard gain on 2nd and 13. Timeout Jaguars. That's 2 for 2. Now you're sitting there 3rd and 10. So here's what I'm thinking. If you wanted to be aggressive in that situation with the 1:30 left, you knew the Jaguars were going to play the timeout game, then from first down on, run a screen, run something simple, try and get yourself a first down or 2, and the game's over. But instead, they did what most conservative coaches would have done. Run the ball, timeout, run the ball, timeout. So it's 3rd and 10, and all of a sudden, the offensive coordinator, I just have to give him the credit and or the blame, says, we got to play here. It's not a trick play, but it's certainly going to catch them off guard because they're expecting a run and us to call our 3rd timeout or Jaguars to call their 3rd timeout, and we're not going to do that. Don't really know what the play was, but Dak rolls a little bit left, throws some weak-ass looking 30-yard pass in the air to Michael Gallup, who ain't open, with a cornerback right on him. The play never had a chance, and by the way, the ball sails out of bounds. Didn't use the timeout, didn't do anything right. If there was a play there where you thought this one's going to trick them, we're going to get 10 yards, the game's going to be over, that wasn't it. And if that wasn't it, then a couple of things. Why can't you come up with a creative play there that you've been holding for the whole game or a week or a month or whatever, where you're like, this one's going to work. We've been working on this one. We've been setting this one up the whole game to hopefully CD. This one's going to work. This one's going to work. We're going to run this play, and it's going to be sticking your chest out and saying, we didn't just lay down and hope we won in the end. We went and took the damn game. But instead, I don't know what that play was, but I do know this. If I'm the quarterback and I'm rolling kind of gently to the sidelines and I'm looking for a big play and I look down there and my big old wide receiver, number 13, has a cornerback in his jock and I'm about to throw the ball out of bounds, you know what I do? Fall the fuck down. Then they have to call their final timeout or run a little bit and fall down. I don't care what you do, but don't look out there when you've taken forever to get there. This is a Dak thing for me. He's always a second too late throwing a deep pass. The wheel route that worked was the second too late, et cetera, et cetera. Dak holds it one tap too long for me most of the time when he thinks he has a big play. But you don't have to throw that ball. Okay, so now there's a timeout for Jacksonville. The ball gets punted, and Jacksonville is able to get the ball down the field. There is a controversial play as to whether or not he's out of bounds and he gets the first down, whatever. They keep their timeout. They line up the kick a field goal, and the game goes to overtime. In some ways, it's inexplicable. But it's okay. The game's not over. You toss the coin. The Cowboys get the ball. And on a play again, if you're a Dak lover, you're like, no way that's his fault. The ball hit Noah Brown in the chest. I watched that play 50 times. It's all over Twitter and the internet. You can watch it as well. A couple of things. As Noah Brown drags across the middle of the field and they're going to get a 7 or 8 yard completion for a first down, the cornerback, as he runs, grabs his right hand behind him just for a second. So now he's fighting to get his hand back. As he gets his hand back and he comes clear, he realizes he has now broken into an open area where he's probably going to be a target, only he can't see the quarterback because the quarterback has flushed himself forward in the pocket towards the left tackle and the defensive end because he's been pushed a little bit from behind, but not much. He had choices. He could have shuffled a little bit farther to the left so that he could see around the end and the tackle. He could have run. He could have done a lot of things, but instead he got pushed towards the left tackle and the defensive end and ends up throwing a pass from way up here, very hard, straight down to a receiver who goes to his bottom to try and catch the ball, who, by the way, did not see the ball as it came out of Dak's hand. Now, that is not uncommon for receivers not to see the ball coming out of quarterback's hands. Lots of times they pick it up however long after it's out of the quarterback's hands, which he did. But by not picking up right away, he also did not get his hands free to get into the proper position. So he goes to the, I'm going to catch it. It bounces off of him. And people have said this, and some people didn't like it. It's an unlucky play. It's a bad play that it didn't get caught. But with everything I've seen in the replay, I can understand how it didn't get caught. And it's unlucky because the safety wasn't in the perfect position. He was just standing there 5 yards away from the play where he was going to go over and touch Noah Brown down after he caught the pass to complete the third down. And for the Cowboys to get a first down, the game would have been over. But instead, ricochet off an arm and whatever's underneath his shoulder pads and up into the arms of a waiting safety, and there ain't nobody to stop him but offensive lineman and a quarterback. To the house, the game's over, and the Jaguars win. Now, there are so many things here. Good things and bad things. The start to the game was brilliant. 3 of the Cowboys' touchdown drives were phenomenal. The way the plays were called, the way Dak hit his back step and let the ball fly, the running game, the offensive line doing a pretty darn good job considering they were rotating Tyron Smith in and out, and Jason Peters got a little bit dinged up, and Ball's going to play a little bit. And what are we going to do in this game? They did all that in that game. Lots of changes on the offensive line, yet overall you would say it went pretty well. Dak was pressured, but he was not sacked a lot. And a lot of times Dak's pressure in his head, to be honest with you, comes a second before it really needs to come. He needs to be able to calm the fuck down a little bit and move gently around in that pocket, as the best quarterbacks in the league do. But sometimes, like on the last pass that ended up being a pick 6 for the game, he forced himself up to the left tackle. He threw from an awkward angle. The receiver didn't see the ball. Receiver didn't catch the ball, and the Jaguars steal a victory. The Cowboys were the better team. Their offense was terrific. But there are questions here. There are lots of questions here. So one of the things that I'm worried about is, I have been telling you all along, stop nitpicking wins. Stop saying, oh, this is the same old team for the last 26 years. Stop all of that nonsense. It's not true. And I will still stand by that. This is a playoff team. This team still has the talent that it had. It still has a really good defense. The defense just hasn't been its usual self the last couple of weeks, as evidenced by 72 dropbacks by the Houston and Jacksonville quarterbacks and 1 sack for the team that for most of the year has been number 1 in the NFL in sacks. They're now number 2 to the Philadelphia Eagles. So that bothers me. That coupled with 4 weeks earlier or 5 weeks earlier, the Green Bay loss, which was also kind of inexplicable. Played a really good first half, had all the momentum, and then you don't step on the neck of a wounded Green Bay team. And it was not genius by Aaron Rodgers to come back and win that game. He threw for like 150 yards in the whole game. The Cowboys coughed that game up, and now they coughed up the game against Jacksonville. And I'm not saying it's a trend, but I am saying that when those 2 games are over and you look at it, it wasn't one player, one person. It was a whole lot of people, including coaches, quarterbacks, offensive line, cornerbacks, lack of pass rush, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe lack of intestinal fortitude, lack of, we're ending this game, we're the better team. I don't know. Where does the blame lie? I blame Kellen Moore a lot. After week 1, Mike McCarthy took control of this team. And with Cooper Rush at the helm, they won 4 straight games doing very little on offense. But they didn't turn the ball over, and they relied on their defense. McCarthy did all that. And you know how I know it? Because he told us. I went to Dan Quinn, and we sat down and devised what we were going to do to try and survive this time without Dak. He's going to play defense. We're going to call conservative plays and run the football and punt the football and kick the football, and we're going to see how we do. And oh, by the way, the offensive coordinator has been told and is making peace with it. So we don't really give a shit what he thinks. This is what we're going to do. And it worked. But when you watch this Cowboys team, are you not 1 minute going, beautiful drive, beautiful play calling, beautiful rhythm between everybody, and the next minute there's a 3 and out that is inexplicable, and you're like, what were those 3 plays? Were they literally that telegraphable that the defense knew what was coming? Were they literally executed that poorly by the offensive line and with the running back and with the quarterback that were just 3 and off the field and any momentum we had is gone? I don't ever know. But sometimes Kellen Moore is creatively inspiring and uninspiring at almost all the same time. So the offense, if you want the good, has been excellent under Dak Prescott since he's been back, averaging roughly 33 points a game. For statistical things that you might want, Dak Prescott is number 2 in the NFL since he's come back at, I'm going to get this right, at estimated offensive positivity per dropback. That's wrong, but something along those lines. He's number 2. So every time he drops back and throws the football, more good things happen to him and this team than anybody in the NFL, I think except besides Pat Mahomes in the 9 games that Dak has been back. Great. Scoring more points. I was absolutely apoplectic about the fact that this defense was carrying this team, and so was this running game. But this quarterback and this offense needed to be ready the last few games of the year and going into the playoffs to have to score a bunch of damn points. It's an offensive league. They had to get better. So Dak and them have been aggressive. After the game, Mike McCarthy said, I will tell you this for a fact. We're going to continue to be aggressive. I thought Dak played at a really high level, said Mike McCarthy. I have no problem with anything that happened in that game concerning the quarterbacks. Interceptions are going to happen. Things are going to happen. But the disposition and the way we went about playing offense and the points that we scored were good, and we're going to continue to be aggressive. I like that. I'm okay with that. I sort of would have liked to raise a hand and said, what about that last time out that you probably should have called? But overall, I will tell you, I love Mike McCarthy. I really do. That's not a him and me thing. He's a lot like Jason Garrett, only a shit ton better. The players respond to him. The defense is better. And when you talk to or around Mike McCarthy, you have no doubts about what he's saying without him giving everything up. Mike McCarthy has a certain method about how he plays football, certain principles with which he thinks are winning football, and he lets everybody know about that, from the players to the coaches to the owner all the way up, and everybody's on the same page. And getting everybody on the same page about our philosophies, the way we play football, and the way we choose to win and or lose games is really important. This wonderful defense is tired. It has also lost key players. Now, everyone loses key players. But the starting cornerbacks, Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown, are gone. Jonathan Hankins, who came in, and I wasn't even sure how big of an acquisition this was to play in the middle of the football field, was very good, was a real big part of the run-stopping game. He is gone. Leighton Vander Esch left this game against the Jacksonville Jaguars with what looked like a neck injury that was going to be something similar to the issues that he's had throughout his career all the way back to high school. Oh, no, because the truth is Leighton Vander Esch in a contract year has been very good, and he was very good last year. So this is a big deal. And Anthony Barr is going to have to step in and play his role, and Anthony Barr has been pretty good, but he has parts of his game where he's not as fast, he's not as dynamic, he's not as in charge, he doesn't know this defense quite as well, he doesn't get everyone in the right position because he hasn't done it. Losing Leighton Vander Esch, now we do know it is not a season-ending injury, but he's going to miss another game or two, and we'll hope, knowing his injury history, that a couple of weeks off, maybe even 3 weeks off before the playoffs, and Vander Esch is back to being 100%. I'm just going to hope that's the case. Now, the hurting and or tired group starts with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons has been playing a lot more on the line of scrimmage, going up against defensive ends. Dan Quinn told us last year, if Micah Parsons plays too many plays in the line of scrimmage where he has to line up and be visibly there to be beat on and or blocked by giant tackles, right tackles or left tackles, and chipped and whatever else, he's going to play a lot less plays. Because as good as he is and as strong as he is and as smart as he is and fast as he is, he's not very big, especially when it comes to taking on tackles. So we're not going to do that to him. We're going to move him all over the field. Well, what's happened in the last 3 or 4 games? More and more and more plays in the line of scrimmage out of a minor sense of desperation of, please, number 11, go make a play that nobody else can make. Please, be you, be you. But the truth is, no one seems to be noticing he's tired. He's had a knee, calf, quad injury for most of the season. He's very young. It doesn't bother him. It doesn't bother him. Well, in week 15, it's finally bothering him. Tank Lawrence has been hurt, both feet and a knee. Dorrance Armstrong has been hurt. Anthony Barr, who's been pretty good, is also hurting. So the hurting entire list, and this way for everybody in the NFL, don't get me wrong. I'm just telling you about your team. The hurting entire list on the defensive side of the ball is growing. The out for the season list is 3 starters in Jordan Lewis, Anthony Brown, and Jonathan Hankins, and now Leighton Vander Esch is probably out too. So those are key players. I don't know what's going to happen from this point on. But there are 3 games left, and Philadelphia is coming. And they are 13-1. They have won the division. They are in the playoffs, and so are your Cowboys. So maybe some of us are quietly thinking, Well, Jalen Hurts isn't going to play. I've seen the line coming out of Vegas. It's at 6 or 6.5. That tells me Vegas knows. Hurts is not going to play. My little voice says Hurts really wants to play because as of right now, he probably beats Pat Mahomes out for MVP of this league by a few votes. If he doesn't play this week and the Eagles lose a game coming to the house because they can, and Mahomes ends up with 45 touchdowns, and the Chiefs go 14-3, I have a feeling Mahomes is going to be the sentimental favorite to win MVP, and I think Hurts knows that. But Jalen Hurts, I think, when probably sitting down with his head coach and his teammates, would say a Super Bowl or an MVP. Certainly a Super Bowl. So Hurts is going to sit, but the Eagles will not come in here and roll over. As a matter of fact, they're planning on coming in here and fucking up the Cowboys. Very bluntly. When a bully senses that you're not healthy or you're not up for the fight or whatever it may be, they come swinging, and they come swinging hard. The Cowboys are a tough together, mentally tough team that is tired, a little beat up, and missing people on the defense. The Eagles are going to come, and they're going to come hard. And Gardner Minshew, he is not a bad quarterback. He is a backup. I will give you that, but I will tell you in just a minute, Gardner Minshew's numbers as a starting quarterback, especially those 2 years when he was in Jacksonville, are pretty good. It was around 52 touchdowns to 35 interceptions. He can play. Now, he will stand static in the pocket. And for those of us who are saying this is going to be fine, defense and pass rush are going to get back to where it was, Minshew's going to be standing right there. We will get him. You might be right. You might be right. Dallas Goedert, the very talented tight end for the Eagles, who's been out 2 or 3 games, is going to come back. That will help them. He has not been as big a part of this offense this year as he has been in past years, but he will certainly be a welcome sight to a backup quarterback. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins are all different variations of really good and pretty damn fast. Miles Sanders has had a good season. They've got 2 backup running backs that are effective, and this has been a very, very good Philadelphia team, no doubt about it. Minshew's numbers, by the way, 37 TDs and 11 INTs in those 2 years in Jacksonville. Just found that one. He can sling it. And you may have had a little dalliance with him, as I did in his first 3 or 4 years in the league, where it was like, whoa, I kind of like him. I kind of like the porn mustache, kind of like him slinging it. They made him a captain in Jacksonville. I'm rooting for Gardner Minshew. Well, Jacksonville decided we like him too, but he's not a starting quarterback, and we're not paying him like that. So he ends up, unfortunately for the Cowboys, in Philadelphia. The Eagles will come gunning for the Cowboys in this game. Nick Sirianni, whether he be a prick or a genius or whatever, was a really good offensive coordinator for 3 years in Indy. His teams were very good statistically in all the important categories, third downs, red zone, et cetera, in his 3 years in Indy. Top 7 or 8 in all of those categories. So he was deserved of getting this Eagles job. Last year, he took a team that none of us really knew what to expect, but none of us thought the Eagles last year were going to make the playoffs. None of us. None of us necessarily believed in Jalen Hurts, a rookie coach in, a mishmash of talent, and who knows what in Philadelphia. And instead, they win 7 of their last 10. They go 9-8 on the season, and they make the playoffs. That was a big deal. Now Nick Sirianni has his team in line to probably go 15-2 and be the number 1 seed in the NFC. Prick, instigator, genius, a guy that pointed his finger at Mike McCarthy at the end of the game in Philadelphia and was yelling, fuck you, fuck you. I don't know why he would do that. On the other hand, he has set a tone with this team in that brutally violent, unfair, awful city of you've got a hard-ass tough team that's just going to keep coming after people offensively and defensively. They've embraced it. So if the players, and this is a good team, they convert third downs very well. They run it or they pass it whenever they want to. They are second or third in the NFL in explosive plays. This Eagles team is good. So just because Jalen Hurts isn't going to play doesn't mean our Cowboys are going to win. So here we go. Eagles without Jalen Hurts, convinced that they're a Super Bowl team. He will, I believe, not play. Quick discussion. Does Mahomes win MVP if Hurts doesn't play? And would Mahomes switch positions with him, feeling like he had a better chance to win a Super Bowl and give up the chance to win MVP? He would in a minute. He has an MVP and he has a Super Bowl, and they came in the same year, but the Chiefs have swung and missed so narrowly at 3 or 4 other Super Bowl opportunities, and everyone in the back of their head in Kansas City knows these things are fleeting. You just don't line up and go to the AFC Championship game year after year after year, even if you have Mahomes on your team. The Eagles team will be after blood. As I said, a good fighter can sense weakness. doubt and vulnerability, and there is certainly vulnerability on this team. And by the way, one more little piece of news: Micah Parsons hasn't practiced yet this week because of an illness, and apparently Mike McCarthy says, once again, as it has been for 2 or 3 weeks, it's going around. So the Cowboys in a short week have issues with illness, with 3 starters being out. So there are cornerback issues, there are secondary issues, there are O-line issues with moving people around a lot. So pass protection for the Dallas Cowboys throughout the season has been among the 5 worst in the NFL. They've done very well going forward to run block. They've done very poor backing up to pass block, which may be part of the reason, and is, that Dak has some of the interceptions that he has. Philadelphia leads the NFL in sacks. The Cowboys are now second at number 49. A motivated Dallas Cowboys team could take back the mantle of, we have the most sacks in the NFL, all in this game. I believe they're 5 behind Philadelphia. Gardner Minshew will be standing there for them to get. What team will we see? Am I more worried than I was? Yes. Do I know that we're most likely going to play Tampa, and Tampa looks like shit, and that should be easy, but it's Tom, and they've already seen us once this year at the beginning of the year and dominated this football team eons ago. One doesn't have to have anything to do with the other, but sometimes things do. The Eagles will be out to embarrass this wounded Cowboy team, and essentially in their minds and in the world's minds say, we're the team. The Cowboys look pretty decent for a while, but let's face it, they're done. That's what's on the docket for Christmas Eve. I was hoping it would be different. I was hoping the Cowboys would have won last week. The Eagles would have gone ahead and choked against the Bears, which they tried to do, and we'd be sitting here playing for a tie in the NFC East, and we'd have 2 more weeks to decide this. But it didn't happen. And it all hasn't gone to hell. And I'm really curious, to be honest with you, I think along with you, to find out who's showing up. Wounded, hurt, tired, sick. You don't give a damn. The Eagles don't, and I don't. Come out and play the football game you're supposed to play, because the next 2 games after this are at Tennessee, probably not a playoff team, but certainly not a bad team, and at Washington. You don't think they're going to want a piece of your ass in the final week of the season? They are. So if you can win these 3 games, Philly, at Tennessee, and at Washington, you're getting the momentum that you and I are hoping for heading into the playoffs, because you're probably going to play Tampa, and you're going to need some damn confidence and momentum. We'll see. I really don't know what to tell you. Most weeks I say, I believe this is going to happen. Here's your score. Be happy, shut the fuck up, and go enjoy your family for the holidays. I'm not saying that today. These 2 losses against Green Bay and Jacksonville are bothersome, as are the injuries, as are a little bit of a lack of momentum, and as are a little bit of a hit and miss with this team now, kind of across the board. Some really good coaching, some really odd play calling, some really good defense. All of a sudden they check out for 2 games. Some really good offense statistically since Dak's been back, but the interceptions, holy crap, it's hard to explain. But I will say this again. This is not the same old shit from the last 26 years. This is just a really hard football season where teams survive injuries or don't. Dak Prescott missed a lot of games, and things are coming together. I think Philadelphia on Christmas Eve. What could be better than that? Something for all of us to look forward to, and hopefully it will go our way. Let's hope the Cowboys pull this one out. I'm Brady Tinker. I'll see you on Friday with more details and updates about who's playing and who's not, how this game's going to go. We'll talk about the line. We'll get you ready for the biggest game of the season, and it really is. To be honest with you, as I end this, I'm going to say this is a must-win game. Ridiculous. But it feels like a must-win game. Enjoy the rest of your week. Go get your shopping done, and I'll see you on Friday right here on Off of the Helmets. I'm Brady Tinker. See you in a couple of days.